Hello everyone, BL Carter here, hoping that you're doing well and working on your puzzle one piece at a time. Today I just wanted to rant a little bit about a situation that occurred recently, and I had to give myself a few days to kind of, well, a little more than a few days, but some time to digest my thoughts on it. But as many of you know, I advocate for others, and my channel talks primarily about lived experiences, either mine or children or someone that I personally know. And this particular cast comes out of an experience that someone else is having, but I'm kind of involved in it just because I know. So this particular person is targeted, feels like they're being targeted, and they were trying to explain, the situation to their family or to the parents, really. And they've been trying for some time but haven't been successful. And so there was a recommendation to send, a couple videos. Send some videos for someone where someone else is expressing it clearly, methodically, step by step, giving some examples of some of the things, so that maybe the emotional connection between that child or that person and the parents can be removed, and the parent can be more objective in listening from someone else. And so they sent, I recommended, found a few, sent, and including the one that I did. But the child and I keep saying child, but for reference, for better explanation, it makes sense just to say child. The child, they're going through, and, the parents seem to be stuck in the Christianity mindset of God is allowing it, or, there's nothing we can do. And some cases even want to side with the targeters as the child being possibly over-exaggerating, or they must be doing something, or must have done something to cause all of this. And pretty much the child should just give in to what's being done and just try to live a good, righteous life, and no matter what's happening. And this person, as a matter of fact, I reached out to the person. Well, not at first, but eventually, yeah, I reached out to the person. I kind of questioned, how did it go? Or, want to have discussion about it, whatever the case may be. And they said they had, trouble opening the videos. Yet they never reached out to verify from their child, or anybody for that matter, what's it all about? I couldn't open it. Is there another link to it, etc.? They just dismissed it, basically. And I did see the email that was sent with some of the videos, and the email specifically said, these are some of the things I'm dealing with, and maybe this can explain it better. So, when I look at that, I say, obviously there's something in here that you need to get. This is your child reaching out, and the wording says there's something going on. So it seems to me if you couldn't get the video opened, you would reach back out to the child and say, hey, look, I couldn't open it. Where's the link, or what's the name of it, or whatever. Or you might just try to Google the name of it. And again, my video was also in there as well. And this situation happens to be one of the reasons why I did the video I did. Prior to knowing that it needed to be sent to them, but I knew what they were dealing with. So, and I did it because, people I personally know are going through, and their friends and family are playing into the hands of the gangsters, and they're dismissing their cries for help. They're minimizing it. They're labeling them, and they're otherwise just basically giving them less support than they deserve. But when the targeting gets to somehow get that child, to get a person in the hospital, the friends and family will be right there talking about, okay, let's pray for healing. Let's go before God in prayer and call upon the heavenly host of angels to to heal this body. Well, my point is, forget about healing. Yeah, you want healing, but how about do something to stop the situation that's causing their sickness or causing them to be in the hospital? Deal with the issue. Deal with the root issue, not the symptom of the issue. And that child, or that I keep saying child, but that child being in the hospital is a symptom of an issue. Deal with the root issue. So after some conversation, the person, did say they did get the videos open, and but they said to me the people did not appear to be of any authority to discuss the content, so they stopped watching it. Now, that was my first kind of eye opener. If not eye opener, but that raised an eyebrow for me. So I asked myself, what makes one an authority? And I, kind of put that out there. What do you mean? And they said it was their appearance and the language and, the presentation just didn't seem like they, had any authority over the subject. And I'll be honest with your family, I let loose. I personally let loose. Because to me, an authority to some degree would be a person who's experiencing something. They are the first authority. And if you have no experience in it at all, they would be an authority because they've got more experience and direct knowledge than you do. But ask yourself, and I guess I should have asked this person, if someone was doing crookedness, evilness, any kind of improprieties, abuses and things like that to intentionally inflict hurt and pain and harm on people, would there actually be an authority that's going to sit out and give you some literature or some how-tos or how to watch or how to define it, etc.? Are they going to put it on the news for you to see? No, they wouldn't do that because they're hanging a red flag on themselves saying, hey, come get me because this is what I'm doing. No, they're not going to do that. Who would be the authority over that? And then my next thing is, are we still in the mindset of we don't believe it when it comes from us, but we must wait for the powers that be to tell us what we're dealing with, and then the rest of us will listen? So we don't hear it from our own, but we'll wait for outsiders to tell us. That's been the trend. We tell each other stuff, we don't believe it, we dismiss it. We gotta wait for Master to come tell us what it is. So I was, like I said, I let loose from this person. But this is a black family. This is a black, melanated, copper-colored, Negroid, African-American, call it whatever you want to call it. They have been living a life of being oppressed and judged just like all the rest of us because of their appearance. They know deep down inside they are a whole lot more and could have been a whole lot more were it not for the oppression and judgment just based on their appearance alone. So how dare you say you won't accept any information or you won't even look at any information from someone on a subject that you have no knowledge about, but they're not an authority. And because they didn't appear a certain way to you, or because they didn't use the appropriate language. Now, mind you, these videos that I know I sent, there wasn't a whole lot of cussing and stuff like that, but I guess they weren't using 15-letter words, and their sentence structure wasn't 100% grammatically correct, so I guess that's the inappropriate language, or the inefficient language. Their presentation, not everyone presents the same. Some people are methodical, step by step, A, B, C, D. Some people kind of rant all over the place. Some people kind of have a combination of. Everyone presents differently. But, I thought about it. These are religious folk. These are Christian folk. High up in the church, too. Last I checked, that Bible pretty much said meet people where they are. Didn't Jesus go meet the woman at the well? He didn't go on his way as he was going and wait for her to leave, to come off her route to meet him. He went to her. He told his disciples, I have need to go there, to Samaria. So that in itself says meet people where they are. Even in their lowness, even in their highness, whatever, wherever they are, you meet them. and then you can vibe with them and you can help them or communicate with them, whatever it is. But as long as you remain where you are and they are where they are and you're miles apart, you'll never get anywhere. And you're not going to heal them. You're not going to help them. You're not going to do anything for them. Last I checked, that Bible said, be careful who you entertain. You might be entertaining an angel. So if a derelict on the street, a homeless person, a bum, whatever you want to call them, a hobo, dirty feet, matted hair, clothes tattered and torn, pushing a shopping cart, carrying a whole bunch of Walmart bags with all their little stuff in it, tried to tell you something, you would dismiss it. You would dismiss any wisdom, any knowledge, or anything they may have to share with you because they don't look a certain way, or because they may not present in the manner you think they should. See, this religion and Christianity has got us so messed up, has us so messed up. But then I can also say, are you living what you preaching? Are you living it? You want other people to do, but are you living it? So, of course, we wound up getting into the whole Christianity thing. And y'all know, I don't tell people what to do. I put information out there. I try to put my information in such a manner as that it's going to cause you to go and search out the answers for yourself. But I put the information out there. But I raised the Noah's Ark issue. I raised the issue of the dimensions of the ark. And when we convert that to what you and I grew up on, feet and inches, and we convert that to linear feet and inches, the dimensions just don't kind of seem right to me. Seems kind of strange that you can put all these animals 2 by 2 in a vessel that doesn't quite seem as big as as a little girl. I had the impression of. I'll put it that way. I raised the issue of this hijacked Jesus. How many messiahs are in there? And it's Jesus the Christ, not Jesus Christ. Christ is a title. That's a position. It's just that, a position. I raised the issue of religion in itself being hijacked. And in some regard, it wasn't necessarily hijacked because we know, those of you who follow my channel, follow Lance's channel, religion was used has been and continues to be used to control people, to control their behavior. And so in that regard, it wasn't hijacked because that was its intent from the beginning. But the spirituality is what was hijacked and moved into religion. And it has Christians sitting idly by watching things go on. I raised how religion was used to control the slaves. And people still falling into idleness. They watch folk. They watch their folk. They watch their people be raped, robbed, stolen from. Their lives raped and pillaged through. People are being killed. They're being destroyed and forced to live a life of I won't say nothingness, but down to the utter lowest of low. And these Christians, the religious people, we sit back and do nothing. We say nothing. Or we say pray about it. Or we say God is doing something. God's doing a new thing. Or we say God allowed it, so you have to go through it. I raised the issue of that Bible having been altered in my lifetime, let alone from the very beginning. From the time it was first printed, way, way, way back before King James, and how King James made his changes and all the other changes along the way. The fact of the matter is, you have how many hundreds of translations? If you've got all those different translations or versions of the Bible, that in itself should tell you got to question the book. And again, never question God. I'm not saying question God. I'm questioning that book. So people know clearly where it says don't add nothing to and take nothing away from. In my lifetime, I've seen added. I've seen taken away. I've seen extrapolated so to the point where it almost changes the whole meaning of what I believe was intended when the inspired word was written. So, and as we continue to go on, the elder or the church leader, whoever it was, what I know the title, but I'm trying to be anonymous with it, brought up the Holy Spirit gives confirmation. So when you have situations where there's conflict in the writing, you ask the Holy Spirit to give you confirmation, which is great because that led me to the whole Trinity thing. And my question is this: how do you trust and believe this Trinity thing? Well, believe the Holy Spirit when the Trinity itself is questionable. We've heard about the Council of Nicaea. We've heard about the various things along the way. And if you haven't heard it, read it. It's out there. But in one place, and I brought this up, in one place, Jesus himself says, worship the Father who sent me. Don't worship me. I'm not the man. I'm not the one. I'm not the top dog. I'm not the HNIC. My Father is. And y'all, I paraphrase that. The Bible don't say all of that, but that's, I brought it up to our terms. But it says very clearly, worship the Father who sent me, not me. Even when he did the Lord's Prayer, it was done to our Father which art in heaven. It wasn't done to me. And that would be me pretending to be Jesus when I said that. But later, in this same Bible, Jesus says, he's the boss. He's the HNIC. And now today, what we got folk running around worshiping Jesus himself as he is the HNIC. We got to go through him to get to the Father. You have to, everything you do, it must be done through Jesus. And people can't even sit down and see this. This has happened in my lifetime. And I'm not old, but I ain't young either. So how is it people older than me can't see it? Or how is it they have not went on a quest for the truth? For every time and the people I'm speaking about particularly right now have biblical training beyond a bachelor's degree, as well as I do. And so I know these questions had to come to them at some point. So did they go ahead and sit on the questions as oftentimes they're taught to do? If you go to seminary or get a master's or doctorate in divinity, master's in theology, whatever it is, these questions have to come up. And you're taught pretty much to dismiss it. Or you're given some godly biblical reason or religious reason to explain it away. So what this says to me is this person has allowed that to happen with their thoughts instead of clarifying, verifying, and knowing, not believing, knowing for sure what that their question is fully answered. Another thing, Bible clearly says who the disciples were to preach to. Yet later come back and say, no, go and preach to everybody. Go and preach to the whole world. But in another chapter, you very clearly see there's limits on who the disciples were supposed to go preach to. So those little conflicts there was enough, but that's what I brought up in the conversation. That's what came to my mind. And, the other conflicting passages, I went straight in on the Roman situation, where it clearly tells us to obey the government, to even obey the police. It says if the police approach you about something, it's for your good. If we feel some kind of way, if we feel fearful or negative in any kind of way with the police or government approaching us, then it must be because we are bad or we are doing something bad. We've got something to hide. We have a reason to feel bad because they have nothing against us. They only want our best interests, and everything they do is for our good. That Romans says that, and it very clearly says that. Well, y'all, family, I'm here to say, and now I'm going into my own personal experience, and this is what kind of was ringing in my head as I'm having the conversation with that person. But many years ago, the day an officer pulled me over on a traffic stop, detained me for an unreasonably long period of time for no reason, and when I questioned why I was still being detained unnecessarily, he pulled a fucking Glock semi-automatic into my face and threatened my life. Now, I'm a tax-paying citizen. I work every day, taking care of my kids. As a matter of fact, I've got another teenager that I was taking over as well. It wasn't foster care, but it's a similar concept. And that wasn't for my good. My background was clear. I was speeding, and I never debated that I was speeding. I knew it. I was rushing. Had my teenager, had took the day off, running with her, doctor's appointments, rushing to get back to daycare. And for those of you who had children in daycare, you know what it's like when 6 o'clock is coming and it's like 5:50 and you're trying to make it through. So yes, I was speeding. I was going through one of the back roads. It is what it is. So when he threw his lights on, I knew, that's a ticket, and there wasn't no question. I was going to pay it and be done with it. All my documents were in order. There was no issue with registration, stolen car, no tail lights out, none of that. He just sat and purposely detained me. And when I questioned it nicely, very submissively, very humbly, I have a gun put to my face as if I had no right to question. I did nothing wrong, and he was not working in my best interest. So, I'm here to tell you, the day an officer pulled me over on a trumped-up speeding charge. I wasn't speeding, and in that situation, it was definitely not for my good because I wasn't speeding. And I'm driving through. Officer, I saw him when we were going two opposite directions, and when he got just broadside to me and was able to look in my vehicle and saw it was me, all of a sudden he made a U-turn in the middle of the street and threw his lights on. Went through the process, everything checks out, he gives me the ticket. I politely pull over off, to a side road. I walk back and I take pictures of the posted speed signs, the area, all of that. Take pictures of everything. And, I'll just deal with it later. I've got to go do what I got to do right now, and I'll handle it later. During that time, I observed that officer sitting there watching me do all of this. And several other vehicles passed by. Speeding, music blasting, you name it, all of that. And the officer never attempted to address any of them. So was it for my good that officer pulled me over and wrote me a ticket? Why didn't he seek to take some action for the good of all those other drivers that were speeding and blasting music, etc.? And in that case, I went to the police station, reported it, and actually the police chief called him in off the road, reviewed the video, and dropped the charge throughout the ticket right then and there. It never even went any further than, an hour long. But I'm here to tell you. Another situation, officer pulled me over, allegedly speeding. And when he said something about me speeding, I said, "No, officer, I'd like to get your gun calibrated because I wasn't speeding." Then he says I was following too close. So I know immediately it's not for my good. It's for their bullcrap. So when that Bible sits there and tells you that you need to be humble and submissive and be okay with whatever's going on because they have your good in mind, they don't have your good in mind. They didn't have my good in mind none of these times that I just brought up. But it bothers me that that some people who are so stuck and caught up in religion, caught up in what that Bible's telling them, that they will sit and allow their people to be mistreated, to be done wrong, all in the name of being persecuted for Jesus. Or clarification, in the name of being persecuted for righteousness. Well, that's a whole lot of something. And that last particular situation, I had gotten to the point where I was ready to take the ride. You get tired of, doing everything it is you're supposed to do, trying to keep your nose clean, knowing that your skin color looks different than others, so you have to always be on guard. You have to always be on your P's and Q's, dot your I's, cross your T's all the time. And that particular day, I was, you know what? Yeah, we're going to take this ride today. Call your supervisors or whatever. Get the gun calibrated. Do all those things that we need to do. Because this is not, I'm not in acceptance of this today. And years later, what do we have? Sandra Bland. That day, she was tired. And she said, "Okay, let's do this. Let's go ahead. Let me take the ride. And let me have my day in court and share what's been going on." Did they have her best interest when they pulled her over? Did she have a right Or was she justified in feeling threatened or feeling like they didn't have her best interest? Well, hindsight's 2020. So in all these instances, officers did not have my best interest. They had ill intent. And the last one, I had just come from volunteering with the sick and elderly in a nursing home. So I had a great day. I spent some time with some folk, got a few pearls of wisdom, spread some love to some people who needed it. And I have to deal with this. An officer pulling me over allegedly for speeding. And when I didn't accept that. I immediately rebuked it. And then I had a witness in the car too. Then it switched to following too close and just, really? So let me ask you something. That 4-year-old little girl over in Phoenix with the baby doll. Technically, she had ill intent. But I have to question, does she even know what ill and intent is? At 4 years old, does she really know what ill intent is? Isn't that the age where kids are learning the difference between being given something or being stealing, what's appropriate to touch and not touch? That's the age that they learn. My very own daughter, right about that age, took some candy from a store one time. And I didn't know it. She got it so quick I didn't even know it. But when I got in the car and I could hear her rattling with the package and I turned around, found out what was going on, oh no. Went right on. I fussed at her big time, took her back in the store, made her face that guy, apologized for it, offered to pay for it, gave it back, all of that. Handled it right then and there. But that's the age that they do these things. And no, parents, you're not going to always catch it at the moment that they're doing it, because otherwise, more often than not, you would address it and it never becomes an issue. My question is, according to that Bible, the officer had her best interest in mind. Well, if the officer had her best interest with the little baby girl and her family and her sibling had been traumatized to the point of almost having their lives snuffed out like that, or if the officer had their best interest in mind, he could have talked to the parents, let them know what was going on, and then use it as a teaching moment to train the child. I did have a situation, and I will say not all police are issues. I did have a situation. One of mine at one point was playing on the phone and dialed 911. I don't know if she intentionally dialed 911 or was just messing around dialing and 911 generated or something, but somehow I had a knock on my door and it was the police. And when the police came, she was still on the phone. So I got the phone and talked to the officer, and he what's going on, and told him he wasn't even concerned. He didn't even want to come all the way inside. He came, just stood right there to the front door in the front room, and we used that moment to tell her he and I together. No, that's not a good thing. You never play with phones, etc., etc. This is what could happen, and there are other people who need our services more. And so, we're not really wasting time, but yeah, wasting time coming out here, with children playing on the phone, and, we could be dealing with a real situation. That officer used it as a teaching moment. Now, in that case, yeah, that officer had our best interest in mind. But the other situations I presented to you, no, they didn't. So back to this Christianity thing or this religious thing as the driving force in how and why people act or don't act. Why they will sit idly by, watching even their children be slaughtered, be destroyed, be maimed, be raped of their spirits, raped of their vivaciousness for life, raped of the very essence of who they are. Oh, because God's got a plan. God's got a plan. So my next thought to this person that I was communicating with: why haven't you and a team of your mothers in the church put in some praying and fasting for your child? Why somebody went over there with some sage and called themselves trying to, burn out whatever demons are in there? Why haven't y'all said, okay, come here, let me get my olive oil, let me oil you down, or whatever it is y'all need to do. Let me lay hands on you. Y'all ain't done none of that. Because the truth is, they have bought into the narrative. They have sold their child. They sold their child's quality of life, and in some cases, their very lives, for whatever quality of life they live now, for their to remain in their bubble, to never have to take their head out of the sands, to not have to face the truth of what they're looking at. So they're the ones that's in denial. And I say to all of you, my mother was the woman that birthed me. She fell for lies. She fell for the wool being pulled over her head. Now, our relationship wasn't great, so it was easy for them to get her on board. But it cost her her relationship with her 2 eldest grandchildren. She spent the last days of her life trying to put together the pieces of the things that she had done and allowed herself to be complicit in. She finally admitted she basically threw away her child and her grandchildren based on lies that were planted by someone who had a personal motive. I don't do YouTube for fame. I don't do it for money. Those who know me personally, they're shocked that I'm coming out of my shell as much as I've come out thus far. I do YouTube because somebody needs to know. You look at this picture here. Now, I didn't birth both of these children. Then again, you may as well say I did because, he's at my house. He comes right on in like he's at home and everything. And that's fine, actually. Not just him, but there are several others. But we have generations coming up under us. And there'll be generations coming behind them. So, if people are not sharing, if my age and up are not sharing and passing down the information, what is to become of them? We see where they are now because a lot of information has been withheld. A lot of wisdom has been withheld. A lot of knowledge and teaching has been withheld from them. At some point, we have to start putting this back out there, putting it back into them. So I do it so that if you don't know how to do it, here, take a couple tips from what I do. If you haven't thought of bringing it up, well, here's a couple tips on things you might want to bring up. Or when they get a certain age and they start looking up things and asking questions, it's there. And they can take it and use that which they need. Because I usually private and stuff like that. I don't do it for fame or money. I do this because we as a people need to heal ourselves. We need to start listening to each other, not with our ears, but with our hearts. Open your heart and listen to your brother, your sister, your child, your mother, your father, whomever it is. Open your heart and listen, not your ears. Because your ears will deceive you, your eyes will deceive you. We need to start supporting each other. We need to start standing with each other, even on the smaller things. Don't wait until something becomes a dead-gone crisis, a runaway train, something almost insurmountable, and then you want to step in and say, oh, well, I don't know what to do. It's so much. It's overwhelming. And if it's overwhelming to you, imagine what the person who's dealing with it feels like. This whole BS about turn the other cheek and let people keep mistreating you and doing you wrong is past time out for that. And y'all know it. So get off that religious high horse or whatever it is. We can only be effective if we're standing together. But didn't Michael Jackson put in the song, if you want to make a change, look in the mirror, start with yourself? So all of you who are sitting back telling the folk who are hurting or being mistreated or TIs or whatever the case may be, you're sitting there telling them, oh, well, you need to forgive. You need to repent. You need to stop fornicating. Whatever reasons you telling them they need to do. How about you look at yourselves and start making a change within yourself, and then turn around and employ the faith without works is dead and do some daggone work? How about that? Miss me with the praying, the psalms, and all of that, and pray a psalm and go on. I've even heard some say, oh, well, life is, how they put it? Life is not fair. So when life gives you lemons, turn it into lemonade. Well, I ask you this. If there's someone snatching away all your lemons every time you start squeezing them to get some of the juice out, and then they take away your ability to get to the store to get any more lemons, how the hell are you supposed to make lemonade? Y'all, the revolution will not be televised. The revolution is going to be offline. And it starts within you. It starts within me. It starts within each of us. Stop looking for something on TV or from massa or from the media to tell you when to act, when to stand up, when to take action, when to stand for your children, stand for your brothers and sisters. You be the revolution. You take it upon yourselves to stand. And it doesn't have to be in a violent way. Your stand could very well be walking with them, I don't know, Let's say if they have to go to a court for anything. Now, the assumption is they didn't do whatever it is. Stand with them. Go to court with them. If it means they're being inundated with a whole bunch of red tape foolishness at, I don't know, pick the Social Security office. Just, they're trying to get a new Social Security card, and for whatever reason, they're just being taken unnecessarily around 5 mulberry bushes trying to get it done. You stand with them and you go in there and you help try to discuss or find out from the person what it is and exactly why it is, and try to help them get it resolved. That's standing with them. That's helping them. That's showing support, and that gives them strength to keep going. That gives them strength to survive through whatever it is they're dealing with. That's part of the revolution. Because as we continue to strengthen ourselves, as we continue to build relationships better with each other and strengthen each other, when you've got a whole bunch of people all standing strong and then they turn around and stand together, what would we look like? But as long as we all half broken individually, not communicating with each other or poorly communicating, not standing together, what can we affect? Not a daggone thing. As I said, the revolution will not be televised. It's within you. Don't look for it on TV. You be it. You be the revolution.